Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal. Today's July 9th. I'm linking below to another anniversary today, a very tragic case of a young woman who entrusted herself to a fake clinic and ended up dead pretty quickly. Today we're going to look at the death of a young woman from a late abortion. And pro-lifers and pro-choicers are very, very divided about what the cause of her death was. So on July 9th of 2016, 30-year-old Jamie Morales of Buffalo, New York, had her sister drive her to Liberty Women's Health in Flushing, Queens, New York, for an abortion. The doctor, 53-year-old gynecologist Robert Rowe, specialized in vaginal rejuvenation, but he also did what his attorney described as difficult abortions. Jamie signed in under her sister's name. It's kind of unclear whether she did that to use her sister's insurance to pay for the $6,000 abortion. But Dr. Rowe kind of admits that the receptionist helped with the "let's sign you in under your sister's name," saying there was an issue with payment for the procedure, which was handled by the receptionist. So, yeah. That should be a red flag. If somebody's willing to commit Medicaid fraud or insurance fraud, they might not be a trustworthy person. You might not want them providing you with any kind of medical care. Not that I consider an abortion medical care, but some people do. And it's really unclear how Jamie found Rowe. She was about 25 weeks pregnant. A Planned Parenthood and another Queens abortion facility have both turned her away. So Rowe wasn't only willing to abort a viable 25-week fetus, he was willing to do it quick. Even his website said that abortions after 20 weeks would be a 2-day procedure. Use laminaria, the little seaweed sticks that absorb moisture and expand and dilate the cervix. His website even said it was a 2-day procedure. He rushed through this right away without giving adequate time to prep her cervix. So, supposedly the reason Jamie was having an abortion that late in the pregnancy was only the week before she had learned she was pregnant. How does that happen? Well, you've seen the TV show I Didn't Know I Was Pregnant. There is a phenomenon called cryptic pregnancy, and there's different definitions, but typically it means you don't even realize you're pregnant until you're in active labor. Does happen. So the procedure started at about 1:40 in the recovery 1:40, and in the recovery room Jamie was bleeding heavily. Rowe performed another abortion and then took Jamie back into the procedure room to do something else to try to stop the bleeding. Now, after this second procedure that was supposed to stop the bleeding, Jamie was weak and woozy, and she even collapsed in the bathroom. But Rowe discharged her in the care of her sister with instructions to go to the hospital if bleeding resumed. So the abortion was done at about 1:40 p.m. He finally discharged her from the building at around 6:30 p.m. Now, Jamie was in the back seat of her sister's car on the way to her sister's home in the Bronx when she lost consciousness and fell to the floor. Her sister took her to a hospital where, in spite of being transfused with 6 units of blood, she died that night. And it turned out that during the abortion, Rowe had lacerated her cervix, put a hole in the wall of her uterus, and cut into her uterine aorta, the main blood vessel pumping blood into her uterus. Rowe was charged with second-degree manslaughter in Jamie's death because he had injured her so severely and then failed to provide necessary life-saving care. Adding to the unprofessionalism of the case is the fact that Rowe disposed of Jamie's fetus in a black plastic trash bag outside the door of his clinic. Now, he blamed Jamie's death on the fact that she had lupus, which he said interfered with her ability to clot blood, and he, of course, blamed the victim. He blamed her for not telling him that she had lupus. So, while pending trial, Rowe was freed on $400,000 bail. He was required to surrender his passport. His attorney said that he was devastated by Jamie's death and had immediately and voluntarily closed his clinic. you can immediately and voluntarily do a lot of things in order to stop investigations. I've seen a lot of cases where some pretty appalling stuff happened, and the medical board's investigating, and the guy goes, "Oh, sorry, I'll just surrender my license, no problem." Wait for everything to blow over and then go get his license back, because if you're no longer a doctor, the medical board no longer has any say over you. Now, during the 3-week trial, the prosecution alleged that Rowe took risks to save time and money, and that the reason he rushed Jamie out of the office was to make room for other patients. Witnesses also noted that Rowe had been investigated in the past for hiring staff without adequate training. And at one point, Rowe almost caused a mistrial by approaching a juror near courthouse security to try to talk to her. Now, at first there was a hung jury, but the judge said, "No, go back, deliberate some more. I think you can come to a verdict." When the jury announced that they reached a verdict, Rowe surprised the court by changing his plea to guilty of felony negligent homicide. See, if he had been convicted of second-degree manslaughter, he could have served up to 15 years in prison, whereas the felony negligent homicide only had a maximum sentence of 4 years. Troy Newman of Operation Rescue said, "We have great sympathy for the Morales family for the loss they have suffered. Their grief was only compounded by Rowe's selfish and erratic behavior that first denied them the life of a loved one, then denied them the closure a verdict would have brought." And Operation Rescue's press release about the plea deal noted, "The Morales family was upset that they had endured a full 3 weeks of trial where the reputation of their daughter was attacked, only to be denied a jury verdict." And that last comment makes me think that Rowe's attorney had tried to use what's been dubbed the slut defense, which would be dragging up the woman's sexual history, maybe a history of prior abortions, or in this case, the fact that she had decided to abort a baby old enough to survive outside the womb, in order to paint her as somebody who just got what she deserved, so why punish him for it? And this is pretty typical behavior in abortion malpractice defense cases. Threatening women with the slut defense is something that, as Kitty Colbert described it to the National Abortion Federation, means beating the shit out of this woman to get her to drop her suit. Muggsy, leave Rosie alone. Sorry, I do this at home with my dogs. Again, Kitty Colbert had told NAF members she was sick of them committing malpractice because she didn't like beating the shit out of this woman to get her to drop her suit. So it's staggering to think what Rowe's attorneys put Jamie's family through. Now, predictably, abortion advocates blamed Jamie's death not on the fact that she decided to go ahead with a risky abortion of a viable baby, not on the fact that Rowe was sloppy and careless, but on the fact that at the time, New York law had restrictions on the circumstances under which you were legally allowed to abort viable babies. So, they're asserting that she was forced to go to a fly-by-night because reputable abortionists were afraid to break the law by killing a baby that could survive outside the womb. Typically, a lot of abortion practitioners will draw the line even earlier than viability, just because they're not comfortable with aborting these babies. A lot of them will only do suction abortions where they don't have to see the baby. So, you tell me, do you think that this is something we can lay on the at the feet of the people who said, no, you can't legally abort a viable baby without a very compelling reason? Or do you think that maybe instead of just say, well, sorry, we can't do an abortion, maybe these clinics could have sent her to a pro-life center who could have helped her? I don't know. It's very frustrating. I get the feeling that for these abortion advocates, if a woman's in labor and, I didn't know I was pregnant, can you please snap its neck when it crowns, that they would hold it the doctor's obligated to do that. It's really sad.